In this WrestleTalk news, Crazy scrapped WWE Fiend plans, Taz shoots on WWE Creative and the fans, an update on Big E and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
I miss the Fiend. One of the more exciting characters WWE had on their hands in recent years, though things didn't exactly turn out how everyone envisioned, did it? After being released in July last year, the former Bray Wyatt has been off filming horror projects and movies because, yeah, that makes sense. With WWE's roster changing up so much in the last couple of years, though, 2K has had a bit of a struggle trying to get 2K22 made, with last-minute changes to not only the roster, but plans they had for storylines in the game and the like. And one of these stories was seemingly quite shocking, as Reddit user and WWE Games modder Pepsi Guy 2 has revealed that there was a cut storyline from the game involving the Fiend. But not just the Fiend, his new friend. Of course, in real life, Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss had a partnership that ended at WrestleMania 37, which many speculated would continue past then, but Wyatt was pulled from the story and then released in July instead. In the game, this blow-up of their partnership was due to continue, as Wyatt would gain a new friend in Dana Brooke, who would then become The Fiend. The storyline would continue into a Hell in a Cell match between Bliss and The Fiend, and it would also feature an Elimination Chamber of Horrors match, whatever that means. Now I know what you're thinking. WWE games always so closely follow real life all the time with no stories that diverge from what happens on screen, ever. So was this also planned to happen in real life too? No, it wasn't, as confirmed by Wyndham Rotunda himself on Twitter, saying that this was the angle planned for the video game, not actual WWE TV. Instead, Dana Brooke is in a romance angle with Reggie over the 24/7 title. It's gotta be a net win, right? Elsewhere on this week's Raw, though, was the frankly fantastic trolling from Kevin Owens, who faked out the audience that Stone Cold was going to be there, twice, and did all Stone Cold's mannerisms and stuff. It was wonderful. But some people thought it was just a copy of AEW, like AEW commentator Taz, who pointed out on Twitter that on the Revolution buy-in, Don Callis did the same thing with Kenny Omega's music and made everyone think it was him. Understandably, some people called out Taz, saying that AEW didn't invent that spot. There was an even more famous incident involving Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart that's more directly comparable, and that spot has been done multiple times throughout pro wrestling history. To which Taz responded, and Chris Candido came out dressed like me and to my music, and that was probably mid-90s. Obviously it's nothing new, but it was just done so recently. I would expect more from a company with 76,000 writers. After Big E's scary injury on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago that saw him break his neck, people have eagerly anticipated any updates from the big man, because he just can't help being a lovely person on social media, while providing many video updates and also singing? E did a tweet recently that showed just how lucky he was with his injury being as mild as it was. Had my first doctor's appointment and learning because of the C1 fracture, I narrowly escaped a stroke, paralysis, or death is very sobering. Life feels even more precious and valuable now. Luckily for E, while his C1 was fractured, it was not displaced, meaning he doesn't require surgery. Just a reminder that pro wrestlers put their bodies on the line to entertain us on the regular. And on that note, here's Tempest's review of last night's NXT 2.0.
And if Index isn't the in thing anymore, I don't know what I'm gonna do. What's going on, WrestleTalk friends and fans? Tempest is back with another review of NXT 2.0. In about 5 minutes. So this show started off with another qualifying match for the North American Championship ladder match as Roderick Strong took on Solo Sikoa. This was a fun opener. I like both of these guys, and Roderick Strong remains one of the best workers in NXT, even if they're not pushing him right now, as Solo Sikoa was able to hit the frog splash and advance to stand and deliver. A lot of the matches on this week's show were very simple, and it kind of depended on who was involved, whether that simple meant it was boring, or if it just meant that they didn't have to do too much, but in this case it was definitely the latter, as this was a fun opening match. This gets a 4 out of 5. We then had Dexter Lumis taking on Tony D'Angelo. Now bear with me, I do want to get this right, because the finish of this match was way more complicated than it needed to be. As Duke Hudson distracted Dexter Lumis, Indy Hartwell took the crowbar from Tony D'Angelo, only for Persia Pirotta to then take it from Indy Hartwell, and Tony tried to take it from Persia and accidentally hit Dexter Lumis with it. I don't know why it had to be an accident that Tony D'Angelo hit Dexter Lumis with the weapon he was already going to use. Yes, I know the controversy is going to be whether Persia Pirotta intended to give the crowbar to Tony D'Angelo, but I think they could have found a much cleaner way of getting around all this. D'Angelo was able to hit his swinging neckbreaker, and after the match called out Tommaso Ciampa, who attacked him from behind, hitting the fairy tale ending and accepting his challenge for stand and deliver. This match wasn't anything special, but it was a big improvement over what Dexter Lumis was doing just a year ago. I still don't like his creepy spooky matches. His regular matches are fine, like this one. It gets a 3 out of 5. What wasn't fine though was Fallon Henley versus Elektra Lopez. You know how Keith Lee Flea hit the greatest Beal of all time on Isaiah Cassidy not too long ago? Yeah, well, Elektra Lopez did the exact opposite on Fallon Henley here. Elektra hit the side suplex powerbomb that she does for the win. I really liked her gear going to the ring, but this match wasn't very good. I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 5. The next match saw former NXT champion Braun Breaker take on former NXT champion Robert Roode. As I mentioned earlier, this is one of the simple matches that proved that less is more, as they really didn't do too much during the early half of this match. Robert Roode's heat was like 2 suplexes. It wasn't mind-blowing, but Robert Roode is a pro and Braun Breaker is very good, and they were able to get the fans into things, slowly building to a climax that had "This Is Awesome" chants from the crowd. Dolph Ziggler was ejected from ringside as they did some really good near falls, eventually culminating with Braun Breaker catching Robert Roode out of midair and hitting his press power slam for the win. Dolph superkicked Braun after the match and told him that the NXT championship was staying with him. This feels like a really by-the-books build to an NXT championship match for what's supposed to be like their biggest show of the year. Everything has been fine, and this match was good. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5, but it just felt like this NXT championship scene could have used a little bit more mustard on it this week. Next, we had the second qualifying match for the North American Championship ladder match as A-Kid took on Grayson Waller. This match was way shorter than I thought it was going to be, only going a few minutes, and A-Kid managed to get the crowd into things early as he caught the rolling cutter from Grayson Waller into a choke that had the fans believing that was the finish. It was, of course, not the finish though, as Grayson Waller was able to escape that choke and just roll to the outside to then roll back in the ring and hit his rolling stunner for the win. I've decided I really don't like Grayson Waller's finisher. It's perfectly fine if someone else throws him outside and he does it as like a transition to get back in the ring and hit a cool move at the same time, but to leave the ring only to roll back in the ring when you could just hit a stunner? Come on, man. A-Kid looked fantastic with the time he was given. He just wasn't made to look like much of a star in this match. This was a lot better than your average squash match. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5, and after the match, Carmelo Hayes alerted us all to the fact that we're going to be having a last chance qualifying match, meaning that Cameron Grimes, Roderick Strong, and A-Kid are all going to get one more shot at the North American Championship ladder match. Up next, the Creed brothers took on the Grizzled Young Veterans, and the Grizzled Young Vets reminded us right out of the gate that they are one of the most entertaining acts in NXT to date, as they said during a promo that if they were going to jump the Creeds right before they jump the Creeds. It's not common that a WWE show actually gets a chuckle out of me, but they did here. This was another very simple yet effective match, as the Grizzled Young Vets got the heat, the Creed brothers got the shine, and eventually were able to escape a Doomsday Device type move as James Drake tweaked his knee and was hit with a big double team slam from the Creed brothers for the win. After the match, we got a vignette of some sort as two hooded figures trash the Diamond Mine set, letting them know that they will be coming to the Creed brothers, seeing as the Creed brothers can't figure out who they are. Maybe this will be a new team and we'll have something to look forward to, but I am intrigued about who attacked the Creed brothers, and I do hope that this leads to a new exciting direction for them. This was a fun match. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. And then we had Walter taking on Duke Hudson. Once more with feeling, Walter is a perfect wrestler. I would really like to hear the argument at this point as to why Walter is not NXT champion, because he gets the biggest reactions doing the least amount of work. His chops on Duke Hudson in this match were getting holy shit chants. Duke Hudson managed to get a little bit of offense, but this was the Walter show, hitting a series of chops and eventually the powerbomb for the win. After the match, Walter called out LA Knight and interrupted Knight's promo, saying that he was a disgrace for using his mouth rather than his actions, and LA Knight responded that if he doesn't like the words that are coming out of his mouth, he can make a match with his fist as well and punch Walter right in the mouth, sparking a big brawl with Imperium. MSK had LA Knight's back, and the NXT crowd still doesn't like MSK. How about that? This set up LA Knight versus Walter for NXT Stand and Deliver, a match that has since been confirmed. And, I mean, yeah. Push Walter. He's perfect. He is the perfect wrestler. Yeah, 5 out of 5. Perfect match. And then we had our main event, the finals of the Women's Dusty Cup, as Wendy Chu and Dakota Kai took on Io Shirai and Kaylee Ray. This was another fun match for sure, and Wendy Chu got some early wackiness as she hit a Hurricane Rana on Io Shirai, and Io Shirai landed on her feet, while Wendy Chu landed in a sleeping position, and then they both just looked at each other because, well, one's a wrestler and one is a sleeping toddler. But a lot of good teamwork from Dakota Kai and Wendy Chu. I would have thought that at some point during this whole storyline, we would have had the cracks forming during the tournament, but maybe that's just going to come later. Dakota Kai and Wendy Chu hit a flipping backstabber, a top rope double foot stomp, and a top rope Vader bomb for an excellent near fall before Io Shirai broke up the pin. This then led to the finish as Kaylee Ray was able to hit the KLR bomb on Wendy Chu before tagging in Io Shirai, who hit her big moonsault for the win. A pretty fun way to go off the air, in fact. Not so fast as Mandy Rose decided to make this show very stupid. Toxic Attraction came down to the ring after the main event, and Kaylee Ray and Io Shirai let them know that they were going to be using their Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Tag Team title shot on the NXT Women's Singles Championship at Stand and Deliver.
I don't know if you're allowed to do that.
That's like not how that works. can't do that. Oh well, why even have rules? This was a pretty good main event, even if things stopped making sense right at the end. I'm gonna give this match a 4 out of 5, and I'm gonna give NXT 2.0 a 4 out of 5 as a whole as well. I really hope we can have a strong go-home show for Stand and Deliver next week. I want Stand and Deliver to just absolutely crush WrestleMania weekend. And that just about wraps it up for me. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on this week's show, make sure you go over to WrestleTalk Podcast later on today, where I will be making my final appearance on the NXT podcast, officially passing the torch to the Mocha Wednesday boys, SP3 and Satniangi. Make sure you don't miss that. It's going to be a ton of fun. Who needs Pete Quinnell? I've got the Mocha Wednesday boys.
Oh, I hate all of this. I hate all of this. Walter versus Tucker. Do a run-in. Interference. Run-in. Slapjack. Run in and attack Tucker. Why is that? Oh, does it have to be against Walter? Okay, right. Oh, I hate that. I don't like that at all, but I gotta do it.